Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. American Wasteland, or THAW, marked what many fans see as the end of the Tony Hawk series' golden era. The game returned to the more grounded storytelling of Thug 1, dialing back the over-the-top antics of Thug 2 and recentering on skate culture at its core. THAW is personally close to my heart. Not only was this a game I played religiously as a kid, but the whole aesthetic and soundtrack influenced who I am today. I will try my best not to make this a biased review, but just be aware that this is my favorite Tony Hawk game. Development. The standout feature of American Wasteland was its one large level design.
You could do a combo in East LA that continues all the way to Beverly Hills, it's all one big continuous experience. You never see a loading screen.
To achieve this, developers removed traditional loading screens, connecting levels with transitional corridors. While these allowed for seamless travel, the setup mostly restricted players to various parts of California. THAW draws inspiration from early 1980s skate culture. Early sources would claim that THAW is set in the 80s. However, the game more so embraced a mid-2000s aesthetic, with its use of tech, alternative music, pop culture references, and product placements. A making of documentary was included in the collector's edition and marketed the potential of doing extensive combos across various neighborhoods in LA.
The next page! You said one more page!
Skate legends like Tony Alva, Rodney Mullen, Ryan Sheckler, and Stevie Williams contributed to the behind-the-scenes look. Tony Alva actually played a pivotal role in THAW's narrative. Often considered the Tony Hawk of the 70s, Alva helped bridge the world of surfing and skateboarding with a revolutionary freeform style. In 1974, he found the Zephyr skateboarding team known as the Z-Boys, alongside Jay Adams and Stacy Peralta. Most of the team hailed from the Dogtown area of Santa Monica, a surf town centered around the now-defunct Pacific Ocean Park. The 1970s was where skateboarding culture began to truly shine. In 1972, polyurethane wheels revolutionized the sport, making skateboarding more accessible due to improved grip and durability, which led to the creation of the banana board that made skating vert much easier. While the Z-Boys didn't invent skateboarding, they undeniably transformed it. By 1975, the Z-Boys dominated competitions like the Del Mar Nationals, where they made up half of the finalists. A critical moment in history was the California drought from 1976 to 1977, which forced residents to drain their backyard pools, which laid the groundwork for the vert skating era. And when Alan Gelfand invented the ollie in 1977, it revolutionized street skating by being the foundation of performing tricks. If you are interested in learning more, I recommend Stacy Peralta's 2001 tape, Dogtown and Z-Boys. If you truly want the authentic story of 1970s skateboarding, Dogtown and Z-Boys explains where it all began from the people that were actually there. The story of the Z-Boys carries directly into THAW's narrative, and you'll soon find out why. I want to take a moment to reflect on Nickelodeon's Rocket Power Beach Bandits. Otto Rocket, one of the protagonists, has a helmet that was actually inspired by the Kanoa Flyaway helmet, one of the most prolific skateboarding helmets made in America, which was co-developed with input from Jay Adams. Rocket Power Beach Bandits from 2002 drew significant inspiration from the Pro Skater games, especially within its gameplay.
Try a trick and a spin. Big points.
The game's art direction, led by Jimbo Phillips, renowned for his work with Santa Cruz Skateboards and the iconic Screaming Hand logo, lent a gritty comic book aesthetic to the narrative. The visual style was incorporated in the story's presentation, with graphic novel-style cutscenes adding depth and creating an authentic feel. Xbox players got more love from Neversoft, finally having online support. THAW was also released on the Xbox 360, about a month after Neversoft's usual October release date. As for handhelds, THAW was released under the name Tony Hawk American Skateland. For an extra $10, the collector's edition offered special packaging with a slipcase of real grip tape, as well as 2 additional levels, 2 bonus characters, and concept art. This edition added a touch of collectability for dedicated fans, which shouldn't be mistaken for the special edition, what I own. The special edition has the same content but does not feature the grip tape and case sleeve. Interestingly, all of the collector edition's extra content already exists in the game's base files and can be accessed via Action Replay on modded system. I also found this really funny 2008 YouTube video. Gameplay. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland scaled back many of Thug 2's more over-the-top features, like hurling tomatoes at pedestrians or riding absurd vehicles, and instead they introduced BMX riding as its new major mechanic. This new mechanic felt smooth and intuitive, with gameplay reminiscent of Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX, adding depth without overshadowing the core skateboarding experience. This would be with the help of pro cyclist Rick Thorne, who is an additional character in the game.
It's always fun working with Rick, you know, it's always hilarious, it's always unpredictable, and it's always a little worrisome. We want you to be in the game. Is that cool? We're outside!
Rick Thorne is a pro, dominantly vert BMXer born in Kansas City, Missouri in 1969. Thorne was a staple of the 1980s BMX scene, and later gained the attention of BMX legend Matt Hoffman. He rode for Hoffman bikes for nearly a decade and turned pro in 1994. Alongside his longtime friend Dennis McCoy, also known as DMC, Thorne competed in both vert and flatland disciplines with Dennis McCoy. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, Thorne became a regular presence on networks like G4 TV, MTV, ESPN, and Fuel TV. American Wasteland wasn't the first gaming appearance he had, as he was also featured in Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX, and he even had a cameo in Pro Skater 4, appearing in the map Kona. While THAW didn't radically overhaul its mechanics, it introduced a handful of refinements to its existing systems. But there were new moves like Burt Slides, there was improved fakie landings, enhanced Nada spins, double flips, and parkour that gave the gameplay some extra variety. The addition of green and red markers in the balance meter helped players better time manuals and grinds, while the meter's sensitivity felt closer to Thug 1 than in Thug 2, making the game feel more forgiving, especially at lower stats. Skater selection. The roster of playable skaters was reduced to about 40. The game featured some interesting secret skaters as well as fictional characters from the game's story, with the main one being Iggy Van Zandt. His character is inspired by Jay Adams, and his name is inspired by Iggy Pop and Lynyrd Skynyrd's Ronnie Van Zant. Notable new additions included the return of Stevie Williams, Rick Thorne, Tony Trillo, Jason Ellis, and others. The game also featured bonus characters like Little John, Robot Tony Hawk, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day, and Master Zen from The Search for Animal Chin. The Collector's Edition featured both 70s Tony Alva and 1980s Tony Hawk as a playable character. The level design. The entire game is inspired by skateboarding's roots in pre-1990s California. This includes areas like Hollywood, Beverly Hills, East LA. These areas could be accessible through these corridors that connect levels, and also the use of buses and cars to teleport to said areas. The level design in Tony Hawk American Wasteland was led by John Dobby, who played a key role in integrating real-world Los Angeles landmarks into the game's environment. Dobby's approach brought a tangible authenticity to the game, especially in the recreation of Hollywood. Some notable landmarks include the Capitol Records building, which was located on Vine Street, Hollywood High School, which is situated at Highland and Sunset, that features a very beautiful mural that they were able to put into the game, Hollywood Metro Apartments, which is positioned near Hollywood and Western, the House of Blues, a former staple of Sunset Boulevard. It was a legendary music venue that they decided to add. The Cat and Fiddle Pub, which is another popular one. And the Sirius Radio building, modeled after the Church of Scientology building in Hollywood. Joe Cesaro was also credited for environment modeling, for refining and detailing levels like Van Skate Park, which is based on a real-life park located at an outlet mall in West Orange, California, called Outlets at Orange. The level design in THAW was well received, especially with the inclusion of a more fluid day and night cycle, the Santa Monica being a great example with its use of a Ferris wheel and a roller coaster. Other levels included Van Skate Park from the Tony Am competition, and Casino, which was ripped straight from Thug 2 Remix. The most interesting level has to be that of the Skate Ranch. Throughout the story mode, the player has to do a series of missions to collect pieces for this ranch that will upgrade the actual map itself. As the player progresses, so does the design of the level, and by the end of the game, the skate ranch becomes this massive skate mecca that gives players a sense of accomplishment. Lastly, I want to mention that the map Oil Rig was actually taken from the level in Pro Skater 3, and it was faithfully recreated here. Classic mode also made a return in American Wasteland, though it didn't have the same impact as it did in Thug 2. This time, it featured only 6 levels, Mall, Chicago, Kyoto, Santa Cruz, Minneapolis, and the Ruins. With the Collector's Edition, the player has the ability to skate on Atlanta from Thug 2 Remix and Marseille from Pro Skater 2. Most of these levels were copy and pasted from Thug 2 Remix. In Classic mode, some elements that fans appreciated were removed, such as hidden secrets and destructions in levels like Santa Cruz and Kyoto, and the absence of cars and pedestrians, making the levels kind of feel a little bit empty and less dynamic compared to their originals in Thug 2 Remix. Story. Alright guys, this is a spoiler alert guys, there's plenty of spoils. If you haven't played this game after 20 years, you know, like, you might be missing out. I don't know. I'm just letting you guys know that, like, this is a spoiler alert. So, like, spoils ahead, guys. Spoils ahead. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland features a linear story mode with the player choosing from a handful of base skaters to start. The narrative follows an amateur skater who has had enough of his dead-end life.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Yes, I'm a hugger. I like to think of it as a full-body handshake. How hot is it that we're going to Los Angeles? Are you going out there to see friends and family?
No, to get away from it.
The story opens with this protagonist reflecting on everything he's leaving behind in his hometown of Kentucky. A cheating girlfriend, unsupportive parents who see him as a deadbeat, and constant harassment from the cops. Determined to find something better, he hops a bus to Hollywood, the mecca of skate culture. But things don't go exactly smoothly for him. The moment he arrives in LA, he gets jumped by a gang of punks who steal his bag.
Hey, go back to Kentucky, farm boy! Locals only!
That's when he meets Mindy, a sharp-witted punk rock girl who sees through his situation and offers to help him out. The player is then given some cash to spend on clothing for their character. A guy named Ian says he'll teach you some tricks if you can introduce him to Mindy. However, after he does so, he runs away.
So, will you introduce me to Mindy?
All right, follow me. Hey, Mindy, like you to meet Ian.
And after which, the player is introduced to sponsorship challenges. Sponsorship challenges were like stat challenges from Thug. The player starts with very minimal stats, and upon completing challenges throughout the day, you are given a boost to those stats. These challenges have different sets per area, and after maxing them out, the challenges will no longer appear. The player also has the option of completing cash missions and tagging missions. Cash missions are given out by bums that typically advise you to do certain tricks, complete 2 gaps in the area, or reach a certain score for money. Tagging missions are also available, which give players the ability to make their own tag or help the artist with theirs. These are very easy and it's a good source for quick income. Lastly, BMX missions are available through Rick Thorne, who teaches you how to bike and will give you tasks to complete. Mindy also introduces you to her friend Dwayne, who teaches the player more tricks and wants the player to do a kickflip over Ben Hoofleck. You then learn how to manual and revert, giving you a very notable task to manual from the star of Tony Hawk to the star of Tony Alva. With your new set of tricks, the player confronts Joe, the punk that stole your stuff.
Oh, you're on, noob. I hope you've been practicing.
For this mission, Joe has a rubber band AI. Therefore, his score will always match the player. One strat that speedrunners will use involves waiting for the timer to drain, then do one massive trick. However, this isn't essential for your run. People will still just do it regularly. After assaulting the punk and getting your stuff back, the player takes notice of Mindy's sketches. Mindy reveals her aspirations to design her own magazine called American Wasteland, which she's saving up the money to publish. The player admires the location of one of her designs, which she reveals is a local skate hotspot called the Skate Ranch, but unfortunately, it's closed to outsiders. The player begs Mindy to let him see it. Charmed, she decides to take him to Beverly Hills. However, the entrance is blocked by sheep's wool protesters. In order to get past them, the player does a series of tricks to cause a destruction of a dinosaur head to collapse and get rammed by a bus that crashes into the protest. You could also glitch in this area. There's a known glitch where you can nuzzle your skateboard through and you can get to Beverly Hills a lot faster, but, you know, that's not canonical. Beverly Hills. Mindy attempts to bring the player to the ranch, but gets stopped by one of the members, Murphy. Murphy is a local hotshot with a preppy attitude. He's accompanied by Boone and Dave. Boone is a shirtless hardcore skater with a tendency to constantly crash out. And Useless Dave is a skateboarding nerd who is a vessel of worthless skate knowledge, as he mentions throughout the story.
You know, Day One busted that exact same line here last year. Well, except for that head smashing into a car part.
As local gatekeepers, they are not interested in showing the player the ranch without being impressed first. Each of the three have different line requirements that follow some of the newer mechanics in the game. Boone, you gotta do a bunch of spine transfers and flips. Murphy, you gotta do a wall run to not a spin. And Dave, you have to do the notorious sticker slap to manual to wall plant, which has become a meme, guys. Yeah, that's a cool fucking tray flip, but can you sticker slap to manual to wall plant? Skate Ranch. Once impressed, you are now introduced to the Skate Ranch, a mostly empty field that is in need of an upkeep supposedly owned by a man called Iggy. Iggy is a tatted, raunchy skater with an attitude. Iggy is annoyed when the player arrives and mentions that if you want to ride there, you're going to have to earn it. The player is then tasked with collecting wood to repair a half pipe. This is done by sketching Iggy's dog Sanchez. The dog takes you to a couple of skate signs for where you harass some cops, destroy the sign, and collect the wood. The construction for the repair is completed, and Iggy starts shredding on it. It turns out that Iggy was at a time a pro, but couldn't handle the publicity and dropped out of the public eye and is now supposedly dead. With all that being said, the player did earn Iggy's respect. Mindy feels inspired to make the park into something greater and has an idea to collect pieces to upgrade the ranch. The squad decides to work together to improve the park. These pieces include the Dino Head in Hollywood, the 69 ball near the gas station in Beverly, a statue in Hollywood that requires a giant gate to be unlocked, a green dome, a metal awning, stars from the Hall of Fame, etc. To reach the next area downtown, the player must work with Mr. D.
Tell you what, I can open up that entrance for us. I just need my bag of tricks.
A character inspired by William Foster, the main protagonist of the 1993 cult classic Falling Down, which is widely considered Joel Schumacher's best film. The movie follows an unemployed defense worker with a violent temper,
just standing up for my rights as a consumer,
as he goes on a violent rampage across Los Angeles, targeting anyone who stands against him, all in an effort to reach his daughter's birthday party. The movie explores themes of social alienation and the pressures of modern life that lead ordinary people to snap. American Wasteland directly references a moment later in the film.
I knew it. See? I knew it was fine. But I'll give you something to fix.
Where Foster uses a rocket launcher, accidentally firing it at a group of construction workers after confronting them about them working on a road that doesn't need to be fixed. As a nod to that scene, Mr. D's signature weapon that we help him receive is a rocket launcher, pulled straight from his bag of tricks. Downtown. Now interested in entering the Tony Hawk AM Jam, the player must find Master Zen, a monk inspired by the character in The Search for Animal Chin.
Are you talking wax on, wax off kind of stuff?
No joking! You are a fool if you do not wish to learn!
Master Zen's voice actor, Darren Carter, actually did a pretty good job at making Zen's voice comical, but not overly stereotypical this time around. After helping some of your buddies get more skate ranch pieces like a road sign, a fountain bell, and a fire escape for your buddy Jorge,
Mucho trabajo, poco dinero.
Master Zen helps the player harvest a glass pyramid and the Tower of the Flaming Dragon.
Ooh, your body is strong, but is your mind of equal strength?
He then teaches the player how to stall, using so to stall the freeway stein, causing a massive destruction that kills dozens, but gives you access to more skating terrain. Master Zen then teaches you how to use your special meter and how to go into focus mode, after which he wishes the player good luck at the AM Jam.
Use these skills that I have shown you wisely. Now go, enter the AM Jam contest, and always remember this one ancient Chinese proverb. Kick some major butt, homeboy!
The player arrives and misses their opportunity for the final slot. However, after talking shit, the player challenges another to enter the tourney. After so, the player must complete 5 sponsor challenges by this point and pay a hefty entrance fee to enter. Tony Hawk introduces the competition's Skate rules.
So whoever has the lowest score after each round, it's
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
This competition has 4 rounds of single elimination, and after you win, Tony Hawk congratulates you and the player thanks his friends for all their help. Tony then asks what ridiculous trick you did during the competition, but this leads to the player mentioning that he picked it up from Iggy Van Zandt, implying that he's still alive. Player then gets a text from Mindy asking him to go back to the ranch as soon as possible. Back at the ranch, Iggy is getting arrested for a laundry list of crimes from his past. Now mourning his mistake with Mindy, he gets assaulted by a little girl.
No, you're the dumbass who got Iggy thrown in jail. I hate you!
Oh, what the?
In order to rescue him, Mindy asks you to find the Z-Boys in Santa Monica. And in order to get to Santa Monica, you have to get past a bunch of cops that are barricading the area. Player then meets a non-conformist skate club member.
Do? Yes, you are the poster boy for corporate America, the everyman for a generation of slaves with white collars. Advertising has you chasing the American dream. Think for yourself. Don't let the television think for you.
That says he will help you if you prove yourself. And it all begins by ditching your shirt and shoes.
What did you do with my clothes? Rule number 2, no shirt, no shoes.
Oh, that is so weak, man. I was just starting to break those shoes in.
Material possessions are an extension of corporate mind control.
He also wants you to master Flatland manual tricks. The skate club has a plan to get past the cops by committing a demolition operation, causing a hotel to collapse and the cops to go to the scene of the crime. You then head your way to Santa Monica, but in order to progress, you must do a series of Flatland competitions in order to make it to the next area. The last challenge is with Daewon's Song, who eagerly lets the player win if he at least tries.
This is the last time. I'm sick of being trotted out like some damn show pony each time one of you lose a Flatland battle.
Santa Monica. When you arrive in Santa Monica, the player's goal is to beat Tony Alva. However, you must impress his posse first in order to meet him. Prior to this, the player can collect extra pieces for the ranch, including a stair set, a shark head, and a skate park sign. The player continues to attempt to impress Alva's posse.
Oh man, you the man!
One of the harder challenges during this is lipping a Ferris wheel cart all the way around in the circle. And the funniest has to be this guy who's addicted to sugar packets and wants you to simply caveman.
Yes!
Tony Alva then pops up and hears about you. He asks you to do a series of tricks downhill. While packing up his surfboard, Tony Alva hears about your relation to Iggy Van Zandt. He shows you an old photo that features a now defunct skate spot called Green Pipes Point. We soon find out that it didn't actually get destroyed, but rather buried within the confines of the skate ranch. Alva gets an idea for the player to meet his friend Mega, who works on an oil rig. He can provide a drill to dig up Green Pipes Point, but one problem. The player requires a boat and it's not allowed to be near the dock. So the best way to do this is to get this giant Ferris wheel to collapse to encourage a boat to show up. But what's stopping you is the Ferris wheel is guarded by some loony conspiracy theorist. So in order to freak this guy out, the player has an idea to dress in an alien costume that you can find in Hollywood. With the costume, the player must create a custom grind special trick and then scare the conspiracy theorist protecting the wheel. You must grind along the roller coaster and avoid the car.
Don't probe me! Don't probe me!
After scaring the carny, the Ferris wheel destruction begins, finally causing the boat to appear. The player then has to offer gas money, and it's off to the next map, Oil Rig. On the oil rig, the player meets Mega, a free-spirited cowboy who is happy to help his old friend Alva. He will help the player if the player helps him do a few favors, like feeding his pet shark and grinding off blast caps on some pipes to collect explosives. These explosives are used on a US gas sign to get back at those pesky derrick workers.
Yeehaw! That done did it! That'll give them a severe case of erectile dysfunction. They don't sell pills that'll fix that. Thanks, kid.
The player then helps the non-busy union workers and to collect more pieces for the ranch.
Just kidding. Union workers are never busy. We're always on break.
With all the extra steel that's earned through these union workers, Mega is ready for the project. But before he could get the player home, he gets distracted by a party boat with beautiful women, ditching the player altogether. In order to get back to Santa Monica, the player works with a union worker who tells him to fantasize a helicopter and then spine transfer into a pipe that takes you straight back to the pier. The player heads back to the skate ranch to help Mega with the crane for the project, and it turns out Boone got in trouble with a gang called the Black Widows in East LA. He needs your help, and in order to do so, the player has to meet with the gang downtown.
Yo man, you can't come through here unless you've earned it.
So in order to be a member of the gang, you have to get a Black Widow's tattoo, meet up with a guy named Hector and do a series of challenges, including a very intense manual mission, and you also have to create a graffiti tag that features all 4 areas in the game that features the graffiti artist. As I mentioned earlier, there's this graffiti artist that if you help him finish his pieces, you actually unlock new pieces for your graffiti tagging. There's like 4 main types of stencils that you can have in your tag. If you have 4 of the different types of stencils, that's usually what you have to do to get to East LA. In East LA, the player finds a member of the Black Widow gang near a laundromat who boasts about someone who deserted their gang, revealing him to be in a pipe. The player smacks red sprinklers and grinds the sign to cause a destruction that leads to revealing where the pipe is. It turns out that this guy ends up being Boone, who is trapped.
What was that? That thing nearly took my head off! Wow, am I glad to see you.
The player opens the pipe and tosses Boone the board for him to escape. The player then talks to Dave, who mentions a dirty bum sleeping on a mattress that could be yours.
There's this bloody old mattress down in the river that is calling your name.
Man, I saw that. It's gnarly as hell. But I do need a bed.
And you do a bank tromp to launch a bunch of parts into the air. Dave wants you to collect these parts. So in this area, you can collect more pieces for the ranch, including a giant billboard, as well as a couch. But then we finally get a text from Mindy that Mega is in trouble, and we could lose the crane operation due to a missed payment.
Get off of my crane! I'm shutting you down! Job's over, jerky!
For this mission, a construction worker starts climbing up the crane to sabotage, and you must stop him by throwing water balloons at him. Murphy then arrives with more money, and you have to deliver it to his boss, Joey B. Upon completing the construction, Iggy is released on bail, only for the protagonist to learn he doesn't even own the land and can't afford to buy it.
I don't own that land. I've been trying to buy it for years, but haven't scraped up enough coin yet.
What's that have to do with the snake run?
I never dug it up because if the owner figures out what a badass skate park he's got, he'll cash in on the place.
Hence why it was a secret this whole time. It's too late. The media arrives to cover the completed project. The true owner plans to auction the property, causing tensions between the protagonist and Iggy. We end up getting punched by him.
Well, it could have been if you hadn't been sitting on your ass all these years waiting for someone else to bail you out. Ugh.
Tensions also grow with Mindy, especially after the player snaps at her, and Mindy storms off, only for the player to be stopped by the boys with a plan. In order to save the ranch, the player teams up with Tony Hawk to produce a video with pro skaters, aiming to raise enough money to buy the land. So the next set of missions is about impressing the various pros in the game, including Rodney Mullen, Bob Burnquist, Andrew Reynolds, Mike V, to name a few, and of course, Bam Margera. Bam's part in American Wasteland is very brief, but it's still very cool that he's in it. He instructs the player to do a good old SSBSTS.
No problem, dumbass, but you gotta help me out of here first. For starters, show me you got skills. Let's see you do a switch stance backside tailside, aka SSBSTS. Approach the ledge with speed, ollie, turn, slide, and then right away clean.
A switch stance backside tail slide, his signature grind that goes all the way back to CKY2K. You then have to do a backflip over him. And lastly, you stall a shopping cart for a bet that Bam made with the bum. Here's some clips.
I win, he has to suck one of my nuclear burrito farts. If he wins, I have to give him a pedicure with my teeth. Correction, we have to give him a pedicure with our teeth.
God, flicker!
Oh, that's so haggard. All right, let's see you do this. Once the cart gets rolling, bust a stall on it and then land some tricks. This thing's gonna be hauling ass, so hang on. Awesome, that was ridiculous. Dude, you got some serious hell coming your way. Incoming!
Once completed, the video is about ready, with pre-orders already lined up. The player recommended ending the video with something big, and Dave recommends the abandoned casino. Iggy then appears with a change of heart to be a part of the video.
If I'm gonna get my skate ranch back, I gotta quit sitting on my ass waiting for someone else to bail me out. Know what I'm saying? Plus, I suppose you don't need to have 2 people staying pissed off at you.
Have you seen her?
Yeah, she's still bumming over you. But hey, she's a tough chick. She'll get over it.
The player pays a taco truck woman to drive into the gate, blocking the casino to give you access. The whole casino level is basically a rip of Las Vegas from Thug 2 Remix. The player collects the last pieces for the ranch as well as the last footage for the video.
Get special, then transfer your special powers by skating back and forth over your white boyfriend, dumbass. All right. Don't get all Kung Fu Jackie Chan on me and stuff.
Yo, whack job. Who are you talking to?
For the final mission, you have to skate from the casino all the way to the skate ranch, all by evading the cops. This pursuit involves a helicopter, and you are also given checkpoints. In the end, the skate ranch is purchased, securing its place as a skateboarding sanctuary. The protagonist makes amends with Mindy, and the two share a heartfelt moment, marking the successful completion of the journey from rookie to respected local legend. American Wasteland's story sets it apart by grounding the player in a mission with a tangible purpose, starting from scratch in a way that's different from Thug 1. The story captures the rebellious DIY ethos central to skateboarding culture. The cast of characters, each with a distinct personality and punk-like style, enriches the story by making it feel real. THAW successfully embraced skateboarding roots, and that's the whole point of all this. While some would see Bam Margera's absence as odd, it actually makes kinda sense, considering Bam does not travel to California often and has stated before that he prefers Philly. Still, his addition was welcoming. Difficulty. The difficulty in THAW can go unnoticed in the story mode for the most part, but intermediate in the classic mode. Classic mode is only a challenge if you're unable to reach scores closer to 1,000,000, or if you can't find certain objectives. In the story, the biggest differences in difficulty are the parametrics for sponsorship challenges, money requirements, and the sensitivity of manuals and grinds, which at some point can be tricky, such as the Black Spider manual mission in downtown. The difficulty in THAW is not too far off from that of Thug. Both games have certain missions that cannot be skipped. THAW has missions more dedicated to core gameplay compared to Thug's use of vehicles and escape missions, but Thug had a much harder and memorable final mission and stat challenges. THAW takes only 3 hours longer to beat due to its longer narrative, according to HowLongToBeat.com, but Thug takes longer to achieve the completionist status, possibly due to the difficulty of completing certain missions as I mentioned in the Thug chapter. And while I'm on this topic, THAW requires you to beat story mode on all 3 difficulties to unlock everything the game has to offer, making it a cumbersome addition compared to Thug, where beating the game on Sick would unlock you everything. The soundtrack. THAW has one of the best OSTs in the entire series, and let me explain why that is. THAW featured 63 songs on its soundtrack, with punk and alternative dominating most of it. I'd say the weakest part of the OST has to be its hip-hop selection, being limited to only 9 tracks, with some not even being rap-based. However, it still had some bangers, like Dell and Hieroglyphics track Burnt, I can't say that word, Public Enemy's Burn Hollywood Burn, and an underground classic What's Up Fat Lip. I love What's Up Fat Lip because his vibe is more self-deprecating and aware than your typical ego-based rap, so I dig that. THAW's hip-hop drifted more towards turntablism and synthesizers like Moleman's track Put Your Quarter Up and LP's Junkie Skate Rock, a track where the dude goes off on a tangent about someone talking shit to him, as well as Rob Sonic's Sniper Picnic. Electronic and experimental music gets pulled into the hip-hop category with Prefuse 73's track End of Biters, which is actually mislabeled as One Word Extinguisher, and Tommy Guerrero's track Orgasm. A lot of great alternative and indie rock was in this game. Block Party, who were at their prime in the mid-2000s, had their track Like Eating Glass featured in the OST, as well as The Bravery with their track Unconditional. A fun fact is actually The Bravery played at the 2005 G4 Awards and that year's Lollapalooza. Another underrated classic had to be Bebot Adrenaline's Penalty Box, a fucking jam that I've been jamming for years. It's also worth mentioning that Oingo Boingo is on the soundtrack with their song Who Do You Want to Be Today? An interesting genre that was included was the post-punk revival that was going on at the time, for with a good example being the Faints track I Disappear, and of course, Billy Joe Armstrong's post-punk project The Network did a cover of Teenager from Mars. The game did not neglect the old school punk rock bands though, with the inclusion of Bad Religion, Black Flag, DRI, Dead Kennedys, Casualties, and the Circle Jerks. Heavy metal and even grindcore also has representation, with artists like Mastodon, Venom, and even Pig Destroyer, which was a surprising addition. However, one of the most memorable tracks in the entirety of the game had to be Green Day's Holiday, on their rock opera masterpiece, American Idiot, a track that has followed me since I was an elementary school kid. THAWs OST was embracing the next generation of music and the bands that had influenced that. This was shown with the Tony Hawk American Wasteland official soundtrack that was released as its own record. The album art paid homage to The Clash, while the record itself scored 148 on Billboard Top 200 and reached number 4 on Billboard's top soundtracks. THAW featured 14 cover tracks from a bunch of up-and-coming emo and post-hardcore bands of the time. This includes bands like Senses Fail, Taking Back Sunday, Thrice, Emmanuel, Fall Out Boy, Alkaline Trio, From Autumn to Ashes, Rise Against, and Thursday. Oh, and let's not forget MCR. My Chemical Romance covered Astro Zombies by the Misfits before their popularity rose to mainstream heights. Neversoft basically showcased some of these bands before they even hit mainstream success, making them practically predict and actualize where music was heading into the late 2000s and 2010s. In retrospect, my excitement stems from this soundtrack being one of the most memorable and influential in my entire life, capturing just such a unique era that would become iconic to a new generation of fans. Online community. American Wasteland struggled to reignite the community enthusiasm that had peaked during Pro Skater 4. As the community lost interest, many prominent sites began to shut down, including TXO's own website. The last major tournament hosted by the team was TICC Deus, held on the Creative Review website. By 2006, even the iconic ThugX Online closed its doors, marking the end of an era. However, when the release of Pro Skater HD was approaching in 2012, there was a surprise resurgence of interest, which led some parts of the community, including TXO, to reignite and revive the passion for the series. This was short-lived considering Robomoto's execution of Pro Skater HD being lackluster and buggy. I'll talk more about that in the next chapter, the final chapter. Reception. While THAW didn't receive terrible reviews, the response was lukewarm compared to previous entries, placing it in the C tier category across many outlets. Much of the criticism centered on the game's advertising as a one large Los Angeles experience, which fell short of expectations. GameSpot notably described the game as shockingly easy, feeling as though the majority of it was just an extended tutorial rather than a challenging experience. This perceived lack of innovation not only disappointed fans, but also impacted the series' reputation in both the community and the media. And that leads to personal experience. THAW stands out as one of the most unique and compelling entries in the Tony Hawk series. What makes it especially interesting is its story and creative direction, which brought a fresh perspective to the franchise. Unlike earlier games that centered around a clear antagonist or a personal rivalry, American Wasteland delivered a narrative that felt more like an allegory for passing the torch, like a celebration of skate culture's roots merging with its evolving future of the youth. The characters are surprisingly well written, embodying the spirit of punk, rebellion, and DIY creativity that defined both the early days of skating and the 2000s underground scene. The inclusion of Demolition Radio adds an immersive layer, adding a gritty, authentic atmosphere that pulls players deeper into this world, as well as being just very nostalgic for the Sirius XM era of radio. The real-world inspired environments and larger, more interconnected levels offered a new level of freedom and expression that set the game apart from its peers. In many ways, the narrative complexity and charm of THAW rivals that of Thug 1, but instead of reshaping the single antagonist formula, it presents a broader story about building something meaningful out of chaos, reflecting themes of legacy, collaboration, and creative rebellion. That being said, THAW still had its shortcomings, especially when it came to level liveliness and overall world design. While the levels were bigger and better than ever, some areas like East LA just felt oddly empty. It felt like it was lacking activity. When you compare this level design to LA's design in Pro Skater 3, you realize how much more empty East LA is in THAW. Pro Skater 3's LA had much more going on with its traffic, crime, and contrast of high class and disheveled infrastructure, while East LA just feels too empty to be a realistic dystopia. While the concept of one large seamless level was ambitious and innovative for its time, it fell flat due to the numerous corridor transitions that acted as disguised loading screens. Instead of feeling expansive and connected, the world often just came off as segmented and somewhat dull during these traversal periods. A major criticism from players, and I mentioned with GameSpot, was that the story mode often felt like one large tutorial, especially during the first half of the game. Nearly every mission involved learning tricks many longtime fans were already familiar with. While this made sense in the context of the protagonist being new to the skate scene, it could be tedious from a pick up and play standpoint. Missions frequently boil down to learn this trick or do these series of moves on this object, which began to feel a little bit repetitive. That said, I wouldn't really go as far as to say the entire story mode was a tutorial, but the pacing definitely struggled early on, and I can see where people are coming from. Like Thug 2, American Wasteland had missed opportunities, especially with its classic mode. It was cool to have a co-op option, but the experience just felt limited, mainly because the game didn't include the story mode levels in classic mode. Including those maps probably would have added so much replay value and variety to the game. It would have been as good as Thug 2's classic mode. It's also confusing why the 2 bonus levels already present in the base game files weren't just fully integrated from the start, especially since one of these levels was ripped from Thug 2 Remix. Mechanically, this game was dense, sometimes to its detriment. THAW introduced a lot of new systems from stalls to parkour. That made combo chaining both trivial and frustrating. I can't count the number of times I've accidentally front flipped while I meant to grab, or how many grinds I accidentally stall. Despite that, I did enjoy some of the mechanical improvements. Bouncing kind of felt a little bit smoother for me. Nada spins had more reliability and more flexibility with being able to do certain tricks on them. And the parkour was so exploitative, at least it added some fun level of chaos and it helped boost your combos, so I didn't mind that. THAW's lack of success possibly stemmed from an aged concept. Some features that were once new and fresh felt old and lackluster. If THAW came out as Thug 1, it probably would have done better, but by the time it was released, the gaming market was changing. It was evolving to bigger and more dynamic styles of gameplay. It just wasn't doing it anymore for gamers. The game just didn't have enough content, and that was probably due to Activision's pressure on Neversoft to make a game in under a year. American Wasteland holds a very special place in my heart. Receiving it as a Christmas gift in 2nd grade, it was the game that first drew me into the series. It's hard to put into words just how deeply connected I am to THAW. It influenced many of my tastes, whether it's the music I still love, the aesthetic that I'm drawn to, or even my passion for this project. This game shaped me profoundly. I found the story engaging and captivating, the open world structure somewhat similar to GTA with its objective-based systems rather thrilling. It was a memorable experience for me. I loved the compass, the cinematic moments, and the narrative of rising to stardom just made it a memorable experience for me. And even today, I'm very grateful for how this game shaped me. And while the next chapter we're slowly wrapping things up, I want to personally thank Neversoft for the inspiration for who I am today. Less than 3, guys.